Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of The Committee Reads. I'm your host, Kaiju X, and with me today I have Greyshot, GVR, and Nagoda. And today we'll be going over Match 179, Battra and Mothra Leo versus Orga, written by Harley Jameson. Battra awoke sharply from his eternal slumber, his eyes glowing with power as an enraged chirp signaled the return of the Black Moth. Mothra had fallen prey to an outsider, and the Earth was calling Battra to take care of her killer. He would do so happily. Battra ripped out of his resting place in Siberia. Ice and dirt flew in every direction as the fallen guardians roared at the heavens, wasting little time as his energy sizzled and crackled, a bright purple flash as it already transformed into an imago form. Using his powerful wings, Battra flew up to the sky, uprooting trees and blowing back animals and snow as it made a beeline towards Infant Island. Mothra's killer would pay dearly. Orga was resting, unable to track down the damned creature that took its brother down in 1999. It decided to make its home on Infant Island. Of course, the people all rejected Orga, but it cared not for such things. It had all the power it needed after absorbing the DNA of that moth creature. Its hide, once an ugly brown, was beautiful rainbow color and fuzzy. Two fuzzy antennae stuck out of its forehead. Mothra's former home was now Orga's, and once it rested up, it would resume the hunt for Godzilla. But Orga woke screeching in pain as a volley of prism beams rained down, causing smoke to curl up from the resting home. Battra had other plans. The Shobijin looked up in awe as Battra continued the relentless assault on Orga, silently grasping their hands together in prayer. Battra would need an ally or all hope would be lost. They knew how powerful Orga was. Battra's mission became clear to him. Hold Orga off until backup would arrive. Orga rose from its resting place, giving an angry howl, its warped voice mixing in with Mothra's chirp, further enraging the fallen guardian of Earth. Battra gave a war cry and dived down, his purple energy forming him back into larval form. Goring Orga with his horn, he funneled his power into it and fried Orga with unfiltered prism beam energy. Orga lifted up a single claw and batted Battra away. It gave a roar as it charged forward, knocking into the creature again. The damage Battra did was already healing. Battra swung its head like a sword, firing his prism beam as he gashed at the mutated Orga's body. Greenish blood spewed out of an open wound as Orga roared, charging up its shoulder cannon. Pass.
Battra charged in unafraid, and Orga's shoulder blocked it. Firing its beam, it sent the dark moth blasting out of the cave's wall and onto the mainland, giving a pain screech as yellow blood oozed from his mouth and wounds. Orga leaped out of the hole, and Battra reared up, ramming its horn through Orga's mouth and out the back of its throat, causing the monster to give a pained gasp. Orga quickly grabbed onto Battra's body, pushing it further into its mouth. It started the process that would mutate it further. Orga's colorful eyes started turning red, its fuzzy skin being replaced with a hard endoskeleton, a yellow horn starting to sprout from its forehead. It was turning into a Mothra-Battra hybrid. Not on Battra's watch. With an almighty screech, he focused his energy and exploded Orga's hands off of his body. Battra continued ripping out his horn and watched as Orga resumed his Mothra-like appearance, not able to get enough DNA from Battra. Orga gave a roar of anger and began clubbing Battra with its claws. Thinking fast, Battra dove down and kicked up a mighty dust storm, forcing Orga to shield its now larger and more sensitive eyes. When the dust cleared, there was no Battra in sight. Orga looked left, then right. Where did its foe go? Did it run away knowing it wouldn't win? Orga turned, intent on heading back to its cave to rest until Battra exploded from underneath him, sending the hybrid toppling to the ground with a mighty roar. Battra once again took to the skies and transformed into his imago form, circling around the island. Good writing there. Waiting. Orga roared out, charging up its shoulder cannon until it paused. Tiny golden moths were flying around the island. An eerie calm washed over the place as the inhabitants all began dancing and chanting, much to Orga's confusion. Were they chanting for it? Pass. I stole Greyshot's second place again. I'm sorry.
No. Hey, you're the you get that role now, not me.
Yeah.
Sure.
A bright light began forming, and the moths swirled around in a circle, getting closer and closer to one another. Blue energy zipping and sparking all around as the golden moths became closer and closer. The sun started shaking, and Orga roared in confusion. Finally, the golden moths all formed into a shining bright light, the earth splitting open and assaulting Orga with bright blue beams of energy, roasting its furry body and causing it to shriek in pain as its eyes were assaulted with the bright light. That's a sentence. The light died down, and a familiar chirp struck Orga's auditory sensors. Its eyes widened as it looked up. There, flying above him, was Mothra Leo, the son of Mothra. Battra roared at Leo, who chirped back. Now it was time to avenge his mother's killer and restore the balance to the earth. Leo charged forward, jade bolts erupting out of its wings and striking Orga, who roared in pain and fired back with its own lightning from its antenna. Leo dove to the left, swiftly avoiding the lightning as Battra swooped above Orga, once again raining his prism beams down on the mutation, causing even more damage that began healing. Orga roared in fury, his shoulder cannon charging up before firing out a burst of reflective pollen. That should stop the beams. Or so it thought. Leo circled Orga, raining his own pollen down onto the existing pollen, causing Orga to roar in pain and confusion. Battra fired down his prism beams, and Leo reared up and fired his mega breast cannon, wasting no time to add his cross heat lasers into the action. Pass.
The resulting chaos of the three beams with the two sets of pollen was a fantastic light show. The beams bounced back and forth rapidly between the two sets, slashing and gashing Orga, who was caught in the middle. Battra poured more beams into the mix. Purple flashes of light could be seen from the ocean as the beams cut and tore Orga's flesh, till finally the pollen subsided. Orga's body, blistered, cut, and bleeding, was already beginning to heal the damage. They had to end this now. Leo rose up in the air, spreading more pollen in a circle as Battra distracted Orga with his prism beams, doing a neat aileron roll to avoid a shoulder blast. Two jade-colored rings entrapped Orga, forcing it to struggle as the circle of pollen was completed. The ground began shaking and trembling as the heavens parted. A thunderous emerald beam rocketed toward the trapped Orga, who gave a howling wail as the Sunstrike Buster began disintegrating it. Battra added its own beams into the mix, until there was nothing left but a black scorch mark on the earth. No hint of Orga survived the encounter, smoke curling in the air. Tired, Leo flew down and rested where his mother once lay, using his presence to help revitalize Infant Island. The two moths shared one last parting before Battra flew off to places unknown, to rest again until he was needed. Both parties, however, completely unaware of the brown and white egg in the caverns of the island. The eggshell cracked a bit, and a giant, claw-like hand burst from the shell. An infantile version of Orga's mutated cry echoed around the caverns, and the cycle began once again. Winner, Battra and Mothra Leo.
Well, this is kind of like a really simple, sort of straightforward match. Like I would say of the good variety, at least. It sort of follows off on an interesting little twist at the end of 102, which was arguably not a great match. But it still kind of plays around with some of the Orga concepts present. Surprisingly, too, looking back at it now, it's kind of how tame it is when it comes to the other weirder organ mutations that we have later. This is just kind of I think it properly treats Orga appropriately. It's like, yes, he has the genetic components of Mothra, and he's got a couple of her abilities like the antennae, and I kind of love the implementation of the reflective scales, how it comes out of the shoulder cannon. That's actually really cool. Likewise, too, it's like, I was kind of surprised that this is literally just kind of like a fuzzy Orga. It's not reflected in the current banner, but it's not as...
Is there any change to him in the current banner?
In the...
There's a revamp that has it, though.
Yeah, a revamp definitely has it, but the change in the banner is that he's more pink. A lot more pink.
Well, the revamp has him has big wings.
Right, he doesn't even look pink in this banner, Kaiju X.
He looks pink.
Yeah, he's yeah.
He's normal colored.
No, not really. He's brighter. He's definitely brighter.
Yeah, brighter maybe, but it's not pink.
I don't know. He looks pink to me.
Maybe it's just your screen.
Maybe it's just my eyes.
Yeah, maybe that too.
But for point being, it's just it's not there are other versions where it has the wings, but it's surprisingly that at least isn't specifically mentioned. So I think to me that version doesn't have the wings; it just has a couple of Mothra's traits, which is that's because there's no point in this match where he flies or any of that. It's just like, yeah, it's Orga, but with intent. It's surprisingly very like held back, in a way, but I think in a beneficial sort of sense. It's like, oh, that's actually kind of like definitely a delightful surprise compared to the other crazier, wackier mutations. I do love the ending though, the friggin' Mothra Orgo larva, if you will. That's fantastic. What a great little thing to end on. Yeah, no, that in that of itself is just a great visual too. It's just this hideous brown thing with these large claws and this weird head. That's great. I love that. I friggin' love that. But yeah, no, like the match itself is like fine, like for what it is. Yeah, no, this one's just perfectly fine. Like, yeah, beyond some of Orga's like kind of interesting antics, it's like, once Leo comes in, it was just like, oh, there he goes. It's just quick and he's out. Yeah, no, I think I at least enjoyed this find. It's not a super long read, so it doesn't drag out for too long. It's nice, it's concise, it gets to the point. Banner-wise, though, I will say, even though I wish Orga had more the like the fuzziness of from like, you know, better reflect what's actually in the match. The kind of brighter Orga is actually like, oh, that's actually not too bad. And I kind of like the overall atmosphere of this one with the nice, like the beautiful fields and whatnot. It's something that's nice. It's definitely more eye-catching compared to if this were like, oh, grungy and destructive or whatever. It's just like, no, it's a nice, beautiful field. And it's like, oh, it's visually kind of a pleasant surprise, I'd say. But yeah, other than that though, yeah, no, don't really got like too much else to add on. Yeah, just a surprisingly just nice, solid, average match with an interesting interesting little cliffhanger there. So, I mean, that's kind of yeah, just good looking banner. So, all I have to say. Great shot. What'd you think of the match?
Technically, it should be GVR, as he is the second person.
All right. GVR, what'd you think of the match?
Yeah, I really like the banner.
Place.
Yeah, I really like the banner, except for, as mentioned, the fact that Orga doesn't really represent how he is described. But like the banner looks very pretty, and there was still like an attempt to make Orga look different, so that's at least appreciated. As for the match itself, very fun. Yeah, it's written very well. Has some very fun action. I enjoy like very much how like Orga is depicted and how he's like pretty much trying to usurp Mothra almost by mistake. And yeah, I like how it's very like much more restrictive with like the benefits Orga got from Mothra. Most matches would just have Orga like be flying around, like doing everything Mothra can do, plus like shoulder cannons. Well, this is just like, no, he's got a few of Mothra's powers, but not like all of them.
And even when he tried to get the Battra, he didn't just actually keep all Battra's traits. It's like, no, those reverted because he didn't have enough material to manifest them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I know this sounds funny coming from the person who co-wrote Orga in Hell to be like, I'm glad that the restraint was used here with Orga. But no, yeah. And yeah, the cliffhanger ending is great. The idea of like the larval Orga is an awesome mental image.
Yeah.
Very creepy one.
Yeah.
Just all around a very solid match.
Yeah, I love how Battra transformed instead of transformed, am I right?
This is the match with the least issues that we've read tonight.
It really is.
It's pretty, it's short, sweet, really gets to the point. It's got a good, memorable end, and it definitely, while restrained in regards to Orga, I will say it's not in a bad way. It's very much, it makes those little more memorable moments like the pollen cannon a little bit more, stick out a little bit more. I don't think excluding those moments, the action is particularly there's nothing really there. Like, it's solid. It's just there's not, excluding those moments, there's not much to make it stand out all that like in those other areas. But that's not bad in any way. This is definitely a good match. I And yeah,
It's just not like winning any awards. It's just like real good. Just like enjoy reading it.
Yeah, 100% agree. And in regards to the banner, I actually made this one, so I can say that I definitely tried to go for more like coloring, like a more contrasted background. I think I did a better job in like of Aragon Showa versus Ultraman with how much the colors pop in that match. But for this one, I really do like, I like Battra, Mothra really do stick out. The background's nice and colorful, and this is our definite, are not what you normally see. And I think it definitely did fit with the style of this match. I do wish I could have got a hybrid, but the Mothra hybrid was far beyond my capabilities.
Yeah.
But a good match, good banner. Not much more to say. And yeah, definitely a better continuation than the original. But Nagoda, what were your thoughts?
Pretty short. It's an okay match. Not the best. Banner's simple but nice. It's just monsters in a field of flowers. It's kind of peaceful looking, kind of with the Battra's just there, just hang out in the flowers. Orga's there. Mothra and Leo's probably there to make the flowers grow and blossom and stuff. It's not like they're gonna fight or anything, right? As for the match itself, I like the end bit where like Orga had an egg apparently, and then how the moths used Orga's powers against him, like the pollen and stuff. Yeah, it's a nice match.
And yeah. I think with that said, this has been match 179. We'll see you all next time for match 180. Till then, folks.